Skyhawk Talk live from Snappy Tomato Pizza. Coach Jason James here. UT Martin coming off a couple tough losses as the Skyhawks fell to SIU Edwardsville 69-65 and Southeast Missouri 73-71. Coach, with two really close games that could have gone either way, and they just did not go your way.
Yeah, I mean, SEMO was about as good a basketball game as you can be in. I thought most of the game we played well. Had a couple stretches where they were able to extend their lead, and then we were playing from behind, and then we tied it, and just a really, really good game. Edwardsville was kind of the opposite. You know, we got it close late, but I don't know that it was ever a good basketball game. I thought we got dominated in that game. I thought we looked lost a little bit offensively. We were trying to get them to do certain things against that 1-3-1, and our guys couldn't quite understand the concept, and part of it was because they were so long and so rangy in the important spots at the top and at the bottom. It was hard for us to really move the ball and get what we wanted.
That was interesting to me that they played zone so much in that game.
Well, I mean, we knew it was going to happen, to be honest with you. We're pretty good. We have been pretty good executing on the offensive end. We've been running our stuff. We've been very patient. Against SEMO, I thought we had 7 turnovers or something really low like that. And that was just a testament of us being patient, moving the ball, kind of getting the shot that we wanted. Our shot is what we like to call it, UT Martin's shot. And we did a good job of that against SEMO. So going into the Edwardsville game, knowing Coach Forster like I did, I knew he'd try to switch him up. I thought he'd play a couple possessions of man, which he did early, but I knew he'd go to that zone fairly quickly in the first half, and I knew the 1-3-1 was just sitting back waiting. It's just a matter of time when he throw it at us.
Do coaches sometimes fall in love with certain defenses, and you kind of know this guy likes to do this? This is kind of his style.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a coaching standpoint, a lot of times pride comes into play. You'll see a lot of guys who are man-to-man coaches never play zone. Doesn't matter if what's going on in the game, they won't play zone. I mean, the person I work for at Forest Park, Preston Thomas, we didn't even have a zone.
Really?
Because he was never going to play it. I mean, you never ever. My first year there, we never ever played zone. And
what if you had a slow guy who couldn't play man-to-man defense? He never played?
Back up, give him a step, give him a cushion, just like football. We never ever played zone, and it wasn't until probably midway through our second year we had a team meeting, and I just said, Coach, I mean, I'm a man-to-man guy too, man, but we got to play zone. And the zone actually helped us win some basketball games, but he has been a man-to-man guy his whole career. He'll be a man-to-man guy. He was until he retired, and if he ever coaches again, he'll be a man-to-man guy. And that's just who he was. So I think from coach to coach is very different. Bobby Knight was never a zone guy. He was a man-to-man guy.
You see more man-to-man coaches than zone coaches.
No question about it. Yeah. No question about it. But Pat Knight, who's now at Lamar, he plays a bunch of zone.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it has a lot to do with the coach and his experience. I think you have to be able to play a good zone sometimes to change the complexion of the basketball game.
To me, and maybe I'm wrong, when I was a kid, the zone defense seemed a lot simpler than it is now. No, am I wrong?
I would say that
Okay.
that it's a lot simpler than it is now. Back then it was.
Is it the three-point line?
I think it's the three-point line. I think that because there are a lot of players who can put it on the floor more now. You know, back in the day, you had shooters, you had drivers. Very rarely did you have a guy who could do both. Mm-hmm. No, you had one or the other. And now you got guys who can do both, so it's different how you play them. You may close out tight on some guys, have to close out short, but sometimes when you close out short, the guys may be able to jump up and shoot over you. So I think the players are a lot better, so playing a zone is not as simple. I mean, you go over in some places, I mean, I'll never forget, kind of getting off track here, Chris, but
no, you're good.
I went to Hawaii on vacation. I've got a buddy in Hawaii and went to play pickup game. And a guy asked me, you got the top or bottom? And what are you talking about? Well, they play a 2-3 zone in pickup games over in Hawaii. And part of it is because they don't want to extend the effort to play man.
Right.
And the other part of it is because it's easy. You stand at the elbow, you put your hands up. When the ball moves, you move, and it's no big deal. That's why the games aren't very long over in Hawaii, the pickup games.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody can shoot. And anybody that I've ever played against Hawaii, they can all shoot the ball.
But I'm telling you, I mean, I'm coaching a youth league team now. They're 4th and 5th graders, and we're teaching them the zone because I think it's easier for some of the kids to understand. But I tell you can't be lazy. Just because it's a zone, you've got to be aggressive.
The hardest thing in America is to get young players to understand that zone doesn't mean passive.
Right.
Zone just means we're playing a different defense. It doesn't mean stand in one area. It still means active. It still means aggressive. It still means have your hands up. Zone doesn't mean passive. It's hard to get them out of that because every time you hear zone, kids automatically think, man, that's great. I don't have to move, and that's so far from the truth.
To me, almost it's a thinking man's defense because you think I think you think more in a zone than you do in a man-to-man because you gotta commit. No,
I would probably agree with that depending on what zone you're in.
Uh-huh.
Well, a lot of guys, Dean Smith used to play a little point zone where the post players got block, high post. That's it. You ain't got to think when you do that. You go from the block to the high post.
Yeah.
So certain zones, yeah, but other zones, matchups, when you got wings who are a little bit longer and a little bit more rangy, yeah, that wing may come all the way up to a certain area where it's got to be dropped down, kind of like our zone. And so I do think you have to think, and sometimes that thinking takes away from the effectiveness of the zone.
What about the true junk defenses where it's a box and one or the amoeba defense? Is that all gimmicky stuff or does it work?
I mean, I think it works if you play it right, to be honest with you. It's funny you say that. I watch basketball constantly. I can't ever turn it off. It's always on. But Tim Floyd at UTEP played in a tournament, and they played a triangle in two for 40 minutes. And they blew somebody out because the other two guys, the two scorers on the opposite team, Clemson, I believe it was, couldn't score.
So the two are man-to-man?
Yeah, they get those guys, and if those guys go to the bathroom, they go with them. If they go sit down on the bench, they sit right next to them. You can think of any analogy you want. You think of chewing gum, they're right smelling their breath, whatever you can imagine. But they go play with those guys, and they lock them up, don't let them catch it. The other guys basically play 3-on-3.
Wow. Yeah, I would like to see that. I would like to go back and watch that tape.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it right, man, it'll mess you up. It really will. I mean, it can get you very, very messed up in your mind because you're not used to, in a real live basketball game, playing 3-on-3.
Right.
You're used to playing 5-on-5, and now you take two guys out, and it's old-fashioned 3-on-3 basketball. Let's play.
I like to see it, too, and you do this a lot when you switch it up because I think you catch a point guard on his heels sometimes, or you can just see him backing up and going, wait a minute, I got to do something different now.
Yeah, we do. We probably don't switch it up enough, to be honest with you. I really, really like to switch defenses, but I think what happens in a basketball game is right that point when you think you're going to switch a D and try to change the momentum, your team gets 3 or 4 stops in a row.
Right.
Now you hate to get them out of that man-to-man because they're starting to settle in. And I think in any offense or defense, you can settle in and start to be really, really good. It's hard to stay in that for 40 minutes because offensive players are really, really effective. But I think you can settle in for 4 or 5 or 10 minutes and be really, really, really good on the defensive end, and you just hate to get them out of that because they're starting to play well and talk.
I think that, and I was doing a game with Cal Luther, and I can't remember the game. We were playing an opponent this past year, and against one defense, we were very successful. They switched. We weren't as successful. They switched back to the defense we were successful against, which surprised me, and we were successful again and won the game.
Yeah, I think I remember the game. Eastern Kentucky is the one that comes to mind where they went from that 3-2 to that 1-3-1 and then back to that 3-2 and then played a little man.
Yeah.
But I think that was that coach's philosophy. Mm-hmm. We're going to switch it no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, they may beat it, but they're not going to be able to beat this for long because we're going to switch it back. But we always want them to think. And just like I said again with the zone, if you're thinking about attacking the offense, you're not going to be as effective as you are if you're just playing.
True. I would almost chart it and just see what teams have done. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a coach, but and in the first half, what they do against this defense, and whichever one they were less successful with, you rely on more in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, we actually try to chart which defense we're most effective in.
Right.
So if we're in man and they've got 20 points against our man and 10 against our zone, and then we'll try to stay in the zone. You saw the other night against Edwardsville, we were playing man and they were cutting us up. We went to that zone, we got back in the game. So in the second half, we played a little bit of that man, and they went up 17. We got back in that zone, and we got it to 4 or 5. And so we were, again, trying to switch it up, trying to save some guys, hide some guys, and those kind of things. All that plays into what defense you play.
Wow. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll look at some of the Skyhawks statistics from the season and look ahead to their matchup at Eastern Illinois in a game that comes up on January 12th, Thursday night. More on the way on the Skyhawks Sports Network.